All right, my student is not here, or potential student, but I am going to start anyway. Good morning. It is Thursday, the 8th. 1 week from today is our last day of classes. Now, I have to have grades in as early as possible on Friday morning. So I have asked that you try to get your work in on Wednesday of next week. And that way, if there's any problems with your stuff, I can turn it around and you can work on it Thursday and still turn it in. All right. And with many of you who are caught up now, the only things that you'll have left to do are the second part of the database requirements and your electronic portfolio. All right. Before we go on, though, you see on the screen right now, if you take a look, you should have all gotten an email this morning from Mr. Charles Corrigan. Mr. Corrigan he runs the IT department here, and he's also an instructor. um, all of the IT students have got this email from him this morning that basically has a link in there to the survey that you're supposed to do. All right. And if you go out there was a thing right here, a survey link. So if you go on that, you go to preview. And if you know how to go and use QR codes, you can work with that. Otherwise, you can just click the link. You should choose the one for online. The course code will be AWD, and it doesn't ferret out the instructor, but I am in here. So Scott Jeff. And I'm not going to look, I don't go through this stuff. I don't ever see what you fill out, just so you know. So you could sit there and say the syllabus, you could strongly disagree with everything. And you could put down he was a jerk or whatever. I would never see that. What I get is a culmination. They add up all the scores and the points in here. And if there were any comments that they think are germane to me, I see those. I never see who they're from. This is totally anonymous, just so you know. All right. So that was the first thing. All right. The second thing is, again, talking about what we are going to talk about today. And let me bring that up. Let's see. Where are we? It's not showing, but it's not. All right. That's why it wasn't showing. All right. So as it says, what I plan on doing right now is previewing the type of stuff that we're going to be working with in the spring semester in the AWD 1000 class, Web Development Technologies, which will be offered at this same time in spring. Now, we are down to, if you want to look at it that way, 5 people in the class. All right. And there are about 3 more so far that have added for spring. So we're looking at probably somewhere around 10. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to preview this. But before we do, I want to talk about a couple of things. And I'm going to show you this website. Now, just so you know, I'll show you the website right now. I just threw it together. It's not very good. In fact, it was something I did a while ago. All right. And, you can go here, you can go here. This looks to me like it's a little bit out of focus. All right. I don't know why, but it looks like it is, because I've got this displaying on an overhead projector as well. But we're going to look at how to make this. All right. Before we do, what I'm going to do today is this lecture that I'm doing right now. As always, I'll put it out on my YouTube channel, but I'm also going to send a link not only to those of you in the class, but those of you signed up to take the class in spring that are not taking classes currently. So this is the course we're talking about here. I don't want to do a lot of reading to you. You may or may not be able to tell, but I still am suffering from the after effects of bronchitis that my 5-year-old granddaughter was nice enough to share with me. All right. But lack of better words, the majority of this class talks about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The one that you're going to be the most comfortable with probably is JavaScript, because that's the only programming language among these. All right. HTML, and you're going to see it in just a couple minutes, allows you to put stuff on a web page. CSS, and HTML is hypertext markup language. CSS, which is cascading style sheets, allows you to take what's on a web page and pretty it up or whatever you want to say about it. All right. And JavaScript allows for interactivity. All right. So again, I don't know how well you can see this or not see this, but on this right here on the bottom, I've actually got a running clock right now. All right. And that running clock that's down here was done using JavaScript. All right. Probably can make that bigger just so you can see it. So there it is down there. You can see that it is moving. All right. So before we start, one more thing I want to mention to you. I'm going to give you both of these right now. All right. So let me just quickly copy these, put them out here so you can take a look at what I'm talking about. Here's one. And here's the other one. I'll make them bigger in a second. All right. If somebody said to me, hey, I want to take this class with you, I want to do well, are there any websites I can go to for help? These would be the two I would suggest. w3schools.com and developer.mozilla.org. So really, again, we can remove this. It's just w3schools.com and it's developer.mozilla.org. All right. And I very quickly want to show you both of these and show you why they are important. All right. So the first one there, W3 Schools, if I go out there, not a very nice looking site. All right. But if you go out here, the easiest way to get to this is to go over here to tutorials, and you'll notice there's an HTML tutorial, there is a CSS tutorial, there is a JavaScript tutorial. Later in the semester, we also talk about Bootstrap. There's a Bootstrap tutorial. These are excellent starting points. They've got actual code examples in there with, that they go through, and they encourage you to use their code. It's not like you're ripping them off or anything like that. So that's the first site. The second one is the Mozilla website. They've changed this around since I was out here last. But if I go out here to guides, you'll notice that there is a guide for HTML. There is a guide for CSS. There is a guide for JavaScript. All right. Now, I've actually gone through all of these guides. I've gone through all of them, and I've created videos on them. Okay. Where are those videos? I will send you the link to them later this morning. Okay. Also, just so you're aware of it, we're going to be again using Muroc texts in spring, and we'll be using two of them. Let's see, go down right here and view all. And that's one of them. And that, nope, not that, isn't it? That's the other one. All right. So the first one that we're going to be using is Muroc's HTML and CSS 5th edition. All right. 18 chapters, 580 pages. We're not going to cover everything in every chapter. All right. That said, we are going to cover the majority of what's in the book, and we spend about the first 30 of the 80 days of the semester on this book. I'm not going to go through any of it. Now, the free downloads, if you want to, you can download all the applications and all the exercises that are in the book. All right. And why they show chapter 5, I don't know. I wish they would provide chapters 1, 2, and 3, but they don't. All right. So that's one of the books. The other book is Muroc's JavaScript and jQuery 4th edition. You'll notice it's a little bit bigger book, 711 as opposed to 560. But we, again, go through the majority of this book over the last 50 days of class. Under the free downloads, you'll notice there's chapter 2. All right. I would suggest that by the time we start classes, which I've been told is January 11th, all right, that you try to have at least the HTML book by that time. I know with Muroc, if you buy them through them, you can buy an ebook, you can buy a print book, or for like 15 bucks more, you can get them both. All right. I've got both. I've got the hard copy, I've got the soft copy or the electronic copy. As an instructor, I got a software package that I use that's called Red Shelf, and it has the equivalent of PDFs of these. All right. Okay, so with all that, then let's just get started. All right, there's one piece of software that you will need for this class. One, that's it, and it's free. So let's go and talk about what it is. And I've got it on my machine already. I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm going to come in here to Control Panel. It's you might say I've got this already. No, you don't. You have Visual Studio. You don't have Visual Studio Code. And it should be in here someplace, Visual Studio. And of course it isn't showing. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm just going to go out to it anyway. All I did was I went out and I Googled install or download Visual Studio Code. And it came up with code.visualstudio.com/download. So let me add that to this list of URLs that I showed you. All right. So again, code.visualstudio.com/download. Okay. And when you do, hopefully you'll want the ones for Windows. All right. And you can do the user installer, the system installer. I'm just going to click right here. All right. And it's got some stuff and it's loading the executable right here in my lower left-hand corner. I'm using Chrome. And I'm going to right mouse click on here and I'm going to say open when done. This will be interesting because I already have it on my machine. So I don't know what it's going to say if it's going to let me download over it or not, but it's totally fine. Not a big download. And like I said, it should be the only software that you need to download. I'm expecting that people will already have a browser. All right. And I would recommend using Google Chrome. So there it is. It says it's already installed. All right. We recommend first uninstalling. Do you want to continue? I'm just going to say yes anyway. Accept the agreement. Click next. I'd accept where they tell you they're going to put it by default and click next. Again, click next. Now, whether or not you have a desktop icon is totally up to you. All right. I would suggest grabbing all of these and checking all of them like that. Okay. That's up to you. It's just going to make it a little easier to open files that way. If you decide you don't want to, totally fine. Click next again. It's going to tell you what it's going to do and click install. That's it. I don't need to launch it right now. I'll launch it in a minute. That's it. Now, there are other editors you can use. Okay. There's one called Atom. Oh, I don't even know what else. There's a good half dozen different editors you could use. The reason that I'm recommending Visual Studio Code, especially for those of you who are in the C# class right now, the editor's not that different. All right. Now, you may disagree with that when we take a look at it in just a minute, but it really isn't that different. All right. Now, to open it, it looks almost exactly like the Visual Studio icon, except it's blue instead of purple. So I'm going to click on here and it comes up. Now, yours won't come up like this. I've been working on a file for the other class. All right. So let me close this folder. Yours will probably come up and look like this. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to come in and I'm going to build basically this website for you. All right. With you, for you, however you would like to look at it. All right. And while we're doing this, I should be able to show you some of the shortcuts, some of the niceties, so to speak, that exist in Visual Studio Code. All right. Okay. When you start to do this stuff, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not trying to confuse you, but what I'm trying to tell you is I'm going to show you what I consider to be the easiest and most intuitive way of doing things. All right. You may not always agree when I say something is the easiest way to do things. All right. But like I said, I'm trying to show them to you in the way that I think you'll learn them the fastest. Okay. So I'm going to come in here. This is what you will typically do. First of all, I'm sorry for all the junk I've got out here. Let me at least take this and move this over. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is over here in the empty area here, I am going to right mouse click and I'm going to choose new and folder. All right. And maybe you saw these commercials they were on, I believe, last summer or the summer before, trying to get people to go to Missouri, and it was called You Can Call Me Mo. All right. So I'm going to call this folder You Can Call Me Mo, just like that, and hit enter. All right. So I now have an empty folder with that in there, and I'm going to put two folders in here. The first one is going to be called CSS. All right. And it'll hold my CSS in a little bit. The next one will be called JS, and that'll hold my JavaScript. And I guess I will add one more that I'm going to call images. And I hopefully don't have to explain to you what that one will hold. All right. So I now have these three folders inside of my main folder. All right. Kind of a neat thing, you may or may not agree, that you can do with Visual Studio Code is when I open it up, one thing I can do is I can just take my folder, drag it in here, let go, and now my folder is opened up in there. All right. Not that that was a gee whiz type of thing, but just so you've seen that. All right. Now, this will take some time for you to get used to. I'm expecting you've never seen this before. That's why I said I would strongly encourage you just watch and don't even try to follow along. All right. But over here, this is the Explorer, so you can turn it on and turn it off right there. Okay, this is, you can actually do Git and GitHub through here. I'm not going to do that now. This has got where you can do some running of your program, but the other one that's important is this one. It says extensions. When you download that, there are literally thousands of different extensions that you can add. We'll talk about some of them as we get going. All right. The rest of the stuff that's in here, this Thunder client, that's for an advanced class, not the class you'll take. This, I don't even play with accounts. And this is another way that you can manage some of your settings. So I'm just going to go back to here. And I want to create a new file. I want to create a file called index.html. And that index.html is going to be this file in just a couple minutes. All right. So I don't want to put it in CSS. I don't want to put it in images. I don't want to put it in JS. I don't even want a folder called HTML. I want to put it in here by itself. So I'm going to click on here where it says new file, and I'm going to type in index.html, just like that. Now I've got a brand new file that's not in any folder except my main folder. All right, and it's empty. All right, if I ever need more space on the screen, I can close this area by just clicking here, and then I can bring it back by clicking on it again. All right, okay. Now there's a shortcut here that we can use to get us started, and that is you hit an exclamation point and you hit the tab key. All right, now I'm going to spend about 5 or 10 minutes going over each one of these lines that's in here. The first line says doc type HTML. This says that the document type that we're using is HTML5, which is the latest and greatest version of HTML, the hypertext markup language. All right. If you don't put that in, when you try later to go in and do what's called validate the document, you can't have problems. This says HTML is a tag language. So this is your beginning HTML tag. This is your ending HTML tag. There's your beginning body tag, your ending body tag, your beginning head tag, and your ending head tag. All right. So this says we're using HTML and the language we're using is English. If you leave this off, it'll still work just fine. But again, when we come in to validate it, it'll give us a warning that says you didn't specify a language. All right. So inside of the HTML tags, you've got two other kinds of tags, head and body. Head is what does not show directly on the web page. Body is what does show. What do I mean? Well, these first three lines all say meta here. They're all called meta tags. And meta tags are information that you can put in about the website. This first thing on here says that the character set we're using is UTF-8. And like, what the heck does that mean? Well, back in the olden days, like when I was your age, there was not a UTF. There was not Unicode, which is what UTF really is. There was not a Unicode character set. There was ASCII, ASCII. And that accounted for 255 different characters. That was all the characters on your keyboard and a bunch that are not on your keyboard. But as time went on, and more, we became not just national, but international. We needed ways to specify characters of other languages. Well, 255 didn't cut it. So they came up with a new character set that's called Unicode that now I believe allows for over 100,000 different characters. So the bottom line is we want that line. We want to use the character set UTF-8. It's like universal transformation format or something like that, and it's 8-bit. All right. It's not a big thing that you know that at all. This next line that's in here, for lack of better words, it's a hack. And what I mean is it's letting the system know that if you're using an older version of Internet Explorer, all right, because really Microsoft isn't even supporting Internet Explorer anymore, treat it as though it was Edge. So even though it might say IE, treat it like it was Edge. That's what it's saying. Again, if that doesn't make sense to you, don't let it worry you at all. The next line, the viewport is whatever you're using to look at the program. So for instance, my viewport right now is the laptop I'm using. Okay. I could go and save this out to the internet and afterwards bring it up on my phone. So the viewport would be my phone. Okay. The content here where it says this, what in English, what it's saying is use as much of the screen as you possibly can. That's exactly what it's saying. All right. This title that's up here, I'm sure all of you have seen this before, that if you go up here and you look here, there's the title. So you can see it says, Call Me Mo Home. All right. Right now, if I bring it up, it just says document. So if I brought up this on the screen, it's not going to show me very much, but up here, it's going to say document. All right. So when I come back in here, if I change this back to just let's put in Call Me Mo like that, and I'm going to save this and I'm going to bring it back up again where you just saw it and refresh the screen. It still says document. Oh, I don't think I put it in the right place, but we'll see. I did not. So let's put it in the right place. That should not be in the body. That should be in the title. So we will put there, Call Me Mo, just like that. File, save all, go back to here. And you'll notice it already says Call Me Mo. Okay, so that's the title that you see up there. We'll talk about that. The little thing next to the title is called a favicon. So there's a favicon, there's a purple favicon, there's a blue favicon, etc. We're actually going to make one of the, not make one, use one of those as well. All right. So this is what we have in here so far. There are other meta tags that you can put in here. I'm not going to talk about them right now. They're discussed in our textbook. They will be discussed in detail in class. So you don't have to worry about them. All right. Now, what we're seeing on the screen right now, this is HTML. This is hypertext markup language. All right. I want to quickly show you an example of what CSS is. So I'm going to go over into my folder that's called CSS here, and I'm going to make a new file here by right mouse clicking, putting in new file, and I'm going to type in here styles.css. All right. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to say background, and I'm going to put in here, I'll just put in the word black. Oops, I don't want to do that. I want to say body, and I want to put in here background, and I can say either background or background color. They mean the same thing. And I'm going to put in here black, and then I'm going to say color, and I'm going to put in here white. Now, did that do anything? Absolutely nothing. But I'm going to do a file, save all. My document won't look any different until I put a magic line in here, because I have to tell it that I want it to use this. So I've got a link to it. The relationship is it's a style sheet, and then I have to tell it where it lives. It lives under CSS slash, not CCS, CSS slash styles.css. Now, once I put that in there, I'm just going to put in here my name, just so you see something. So Jeff Scott. And I'm going to do a file, save all. Now, when I go back again, you can see what happened. I made my background black. I made my text white. All right. So I've already demonstrated to you a few things. I've shown you the major startup tags, the HTML tags, and I included a link to show you how you can go and bring up CSS. Now, when you start to create a page like this, what you typically do is you break it up into what are referred to as sections. All right. So in other words, if I go back to this, up here will be my navigation bar section. I might have a header section in here. I'm going to have a main or a content section in here and a footer section down here. So that's what we're going to make right now. All right. I should mention to you also that in the email I sent to you this morning, it shows a GitHub repository that's got all of this stuff in it. That's why you really don't have to go and type along with me. You can just watch. All right. So I'm going to come into my body and I'm going to do a few things here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, I'm going to put in this big header sections here. Notice that when I type in header, all right, and I hit enter, try doing it again. I'm going to type in header. It automatically gives me an ending header tag. All right, as long as I don't screw up my typing. So inside of here, I'm going to make another tag that's called nav. And you see that I get an ending nav. All right. Now, I'm going to put some stuff in here. Don't worry at all about what it means. But I'm going to put in here a div ID equal container. All right. And inside of here, I'm going to put in a couple of things. All right. The first thing is I'm going to put in something that's going to be a logo. All right. So I'm going to put an H1 here, and it's going to say class equal logo. And again, if you go, I don't have a frigging clue as to what you're talking about, that's to be expected. I'm throwing a bunch of junk at you so you can see the kind of stuff we're going to be doing. And believe it or not, and you may not believe me, but within 1 or 2 weeks, this stuff will be second nature to you. And I really and truly mean that. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, all right. This is an anchor tag. You've all seen this kind of thing before. You all know what an anchor tag is, even if you don't think you do. It's a hyperlink. All right. And what I'm about to tell this program right now is, hey, when I click on this logo, no matter where I am on the website, I want you to go back to my main page. Okay. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So I'm going to type in here. Oh boy. All right. Right now, this isn't going to look like much. It's going to just say call me on it. And I'm going to get rid of it. In fact, I don't have my name on there anymore. So let me save this and go back to here. And that's it. Now I'm getting this because I don't have that map in here, and you're going to see it in just a moment. All right. Don't worry about the color. Don't worry about anything else that's in here. All right. But I've already got this thing that I made it. So I'm going to grab all the images that I have, and I just want to show them to you. All right. And there's my images, and I'm going to grab all of them. I'm going to copy them to the clipboard, and I'm going to throw them into my images folder here. All right, what did that do? It's easier to show you what it did. All right, it's kind of hard to see probably, but that's actually a map of Missouri. Okay, so I've got that in there now. Okay, now the next thing that I want to do, remember, this is what we're doing. So I've now got this call me, and I've got this for the map of Missouri. Now I want to put in this. Okay, when I first put it in, it's going to look terrible, just so you know, because we've done absolutely no formatting on this, nothing. So it'll look crummy. That's to be expected. So I'm going to come in here now, and underneath this, all right, underneath this H1, I'm going to put in what's called an unordered list, which is a UL. All right, and it's going to have a couple things in it. Right? And I'm going to copy this down so I've got it in here 3 times. Okay, and I don't need this. And I want you to see what I'm doing right here, and that is this, that if I go back to here, current means it's the one that's going to have the color. So when I go here, notice how it goes to about. When I go here, it goes to contact. All right, so that's what that has. All right. Okay. So what do I want to put in here? Well, again, I've got my home page, okay? And this should say right here, instead of this, it should say here, class equal current, right? That'll be fixed in a minute. Href equals this, all right? And then we'll do our ending A tag here. Okay, and let me just copy this, make it much easier. All right, so this one is going to go to my second page, which is called about.html. And the last one is going to go to a page that's called contact.html. So what have I done right now? Always easiest to do a save and just show you what I've done. All right, this looks terrible. Okay, and I get that because we haven't done any formatting on it yet. But let's do one thing before we go in and do a little bit of formatting on it. And that is this. I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to go back to my styles. I'm going to reverse these. So I'm going to say the color is black. And I'm going to say the background color is white. Why did I do that? Well, now when you look at it, it's much easier to see what's going on. Okay. Now, you don't see anything here because that text was white, I believe, also. All right, so I've got to change that text so that it becomes black. But again, it's no big thing. Right now, if I click this, I'm staying on the page I'm on. I'm going to get errors here and here. I don't have a page called about.html that I made. All right. So let me do this. Let me go in and actually just copy in some code so you don't have to sit and watch me write code. All right. So let me go into the index page here. And I'm going to go down to this section right here. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in. Then we can go over what all of it means in just a second. All right, so I just put a bunch of junk in here. So I'm going to save this and then let's see what we've done. All right, well, there's my picture. And this is called a footer down at the bottom. You can call me Mo. All right, there's the you can call me Mo. Still not sure why that's not showing, but we'll fix that in just a minute. All right, there's our homepage. That's where we are right now, is our homepage. Okay, now we haven't done a whole heck of a lot here. All right, but I want to make it look a little bit more, so it looks a little bit more like this one does. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, the first thing that I would do is, I don't know what color that red is. There is a regular red, but there's also a cardinal red. So I'm going to go out here quickly to Google and I'm going to say cardinal red hex code. I want the system to tell me what that color is. All right, there it is. So that's the color that we want. And maybe it's not even the same one I used before. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to grab this and I'm going to change my background color in here. So it's not white anymore. I'm going to put in a pound sign and then that color. You can see now that it's red. And I'm going to make the color for my text, I'm going to make that white. So I can either type in white or I can type in pound FFF, FFF, or I can just type in pound FFF. And if you go, I don't know what that means, that's what this class is about. So file, save all, go back to here, and you can see it's, I'm not saying it's great, but it's starting to come together a little bit. All right, let's try to fix this right here. All right, and rather than doing it off the top of my head, just so you know, Rather than doing it off the top of my head, I wrote myself some cliff notes here. And I'm going to put those cliff notes, start going through them right now. To make this look a little bit nicer, and right now, this is it. This is it at 100%. So that's what it would look like on the screen right now. And again, it's not terrible. This could be bigger. That'd be nice if this was centered. These should go up here someplace. And the stuff at the bottom, at a minimum, that should be centered. Now, hopefully everything I just said to you made sense. All right, but let's talk about how we would fix some of these. Okay, so I'm going to come back in here, and in my styles.css file, I'm going to go down near the bottom here. And that thing on the bottom is called a footer. So I'm going to say footer, and I'm going to say text align center, which should center my text. So I'm going to do a save, and I'm going to bring it up again. And there's my text now centered. All right. So what I'm showing you here, what I'm attempting to show you, is we've already combined together three things. We've combined HTML, CSS, and images. All right. So all of that stuff has been put in here. Now, if I go back to here, you'll notice that at the top, I wrote in here div ID equal container. Well, that's because I want to take everything that's in here in this div, and I want to be able to style it. That's everything that's in here. When I say style it, give it color, give it different fonts, give it whatever I decide I want to give it. All right. So what I want to do in here is a few things. Right now, what I've said is, this is the body of my document. I want the background color to be this. I want the color to be this. But if I want to dramatically change, for example, the font, I can come in here and I can say font family, and I'm going to put in here cursive. Okay. And I'm doing this just for effects so you can see what we're doing. So if I come back to here now, okay, hopefully you can tell the way that this looks, at least, is changed dramatically. And if you say it hasn't, well, look at it right now. And then I'm going to go back and use the one that I typically use in here, which is just Arial. Okay, and I'll choose this. And again, I'll do a file, save all. And now when I go in and look at it, it looks quite a bit different. Looks more professional. Okay, so what else do I want to do? Well, I want to make sure that my page is centered. Again, I'm just throwing a bunch of junk at you here because I want you to hear this. So I'm going to come in here and say, what? Well, what else do we want to do in here? We got our font family, we've got our color. Why don't we say the biggest size we want this to be? So the max width for this should be 1200 pixels. That's as big as I expect it's going to be. Did that do anything? It pushed it over here, so it made my image smaller, and I've got some gap in here. Don't worry about that. All right. I'm more concerned with this. If you look at the one that I showed you here, the one that I've made already, it looks a lot like that too. All right. Well, next we're going to do this. But before we do that, let's make this bigger and let's center that under our picture. So what is that? Well, that's what's called an H1. Okay. There's 6 different H tags you can use. H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. As the number gets bigger, the size of the text gets smaller. It's almost the inverse of what you'd think it would be. So H1 is the biggest. And you'll notice in here I said class equal logo. All right. So I'm going to come in here and we'll try doing it like this. There's a lot of ways I can do what I'm about to show you. I'm going to say dot logo. And again, I'll try doing a text align center. Oh. And you can see it is now centered around the picture. All right. So we've done that. If I wanted it bigger, for example, I apologize for the cough. I could come in and say like font size, and let's put in here 3 rem. That'll be probably pretty big, but that's okay. All right. And it doesn't look like it changed, which means I put it in the wrong place. That's okay. All right. We're going to fix it in just a second. What I'm more concerned with in here, what I would like to fix right here, right now, excuse me, what I'd like to fix in here is I'd like this navigation bar to look more like this. All right, because right now it looks like this, which looks really crummy. All right, well, this got pushed over too, so we'll have to fix that. But again, no big deal. All right. So this is my navigation area right here, and I want to fix this so it looks nicer. Well, what do I do in order to do that? Well, if you look in here, it's called nav, and we can even give it a name if we want to. All right. So for instance, a lot of times people will come in here and they'll type in nav class equal nav bar, because that's what it is. It's a navigation bar. All right. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to jump back over to here and I'm going to put in a few things for the navigation bar. So let me move that up. All right. And I'm going to put in a bunch of junk here and we'll go over all of it in just a moment. So I'm going to start with the nav bar itself. All right. And I'm going to put in here overflow hidden. And I don't expect you to know what that means. In English, what it means is if we try to shove 10 pounds worth into a 5-pound bag, don't show it. In other words, if I've got an area that's a certain size and I'm trying to put content into there that's bigger than the area I'm trying to put it into, hide the extra content. Don't show it. Would we show it? Yes. We could even add scroll bars if we wanted to make it so we could scroll across and see it. That's with what we're doing. It's not really going to do much of anything. All right. So let's go in there and let's look. I'm going to put in here pound nav bar. And now let's talk about the H1 and let's talk about that anchor tag. That means for H1 and for anchor tag, what do I want to do? I want to float them both to the left. And if you say, I don't know what that means, you're going to see it in about a minute. I'm going to put some padding on the top. You're going to see that in a minute. Oops. And I'm going to make the color of my nav bar, I'm going to make it white. All right. What did that do? Once again, file, save all, and then let's go take a look. All right. Now, it doesn't look so far like much. Don't worry about it. There's more stuff that I have to add. But I like doing this where I put a little bit of stuff in and show it. One of the things that I like about this editor, it's very easy to do that. All right. Unlike in C# where you typically saved and then you had to go and run it again. And then when the run was done, you had to turn, basically, if the run was still open, you had to close that, etc. You don't have to do that here. You can constantly toggle back and forth between these, which I like personally. All right. So what else do we want to do in here? Okay. Well, we've got that unordered list. So for our nav bar, we've got in there, amongst other things, an unordered list. All right. If you look at that unordered list right now, kind of hard to see, but you can see the 3 dots that are there. Okay. That's what you get by default for an unordered list. Well, I don't want those dots there. So I'm going to say list style none. And that should get rid of those dots. And then I'm going to say float right. What did that do? Again, much easier to show you. All right. Why isn't it showing my changes? File, save. Let me try that again then. All right. For some reason, it's not showing my changes. So let's see. Let's double check. We've got our link in here. There's our link to our style sheet. And there's our style sheet. File, save. All right. Yeah, we've got the link, and that's correct. All right. Let's put in a couple more changes and see if we can get all this stuff to show. All right. So pound, nav bar, UL, LI. Tell that to float left. All right. We're going to do one more thing, and then hopefully you're going to see some big changes here. Oh, well, I'm trying to figure out why it's not showing my changes on here. All right. What should have happened, because I put in the same exact code as what you saw here. What should have just happened there is this stuff should have all been moved over. All right. I'm not doing a great job of selling this right now. So I'll tell you what we'll do is let's take a look at the one that's complete that actually works. All right. I didn't want to do it like this, but hey, sometimes you got to pivot and just do it like that anyway. So let me grab this. Let me close what I had open in here. And let me drag that folder in here. There we go. All right. Now I do have one person watching this live, and Grant, I hope you will testify to this, that typically the stuff we do in class goes a lot cleaner than this. We don't have, I mean, do we have problems? Of course we do. Do we have a lot of problems? I don't think so. All right. So this is the same file that I showed you before, but as you can see, there's a lot more junk in it. So I've already talked about the doc type, the HTML tag. Notice there's some extra meta tags in here. All right. Those meta tags that are put in there that you see in blue right now, they're put in there for what is called SEO, which means search engine optimization. All right. And what that means is that where you get in the pecking order. So in other words, if I go out to here and I go out to Google and I type in sporting goods, you'll see that what comes up near the top is Dick's, Athletic Store at Penny's, Cabela's, etc. And there's other ones. But if I wanted to make, Jeff's Sporting Goods, because I wanted to compete with Dick's, all right, then what I'd have to do is make my own website. And in that website, what I may choose to do is put in a description in here and keywords in here. All right. And what happens is different search engines like Google and Bing and Yahoo and whatever else is still left out there look at this stuff, and it tries to figure out if what you put in here for your explanation is actually what's in your website. All right. Now, when you look in here, you'll notice there's a bunch of stuff in here that's repeated. I don't know why, but it is. This is in there twice, but there's our image. All right, there's that map. Okay. And This is the line that's going to allow us to put in the JavaScript in just a couple minutes. All right. When you create CSS that I've just showed you, so when you create CSS, there's 3 ways that you can do it. You can put it in its own file like this, which is typically the way it's done. Or you can actually put it right in the page itself like we did right here. We're going to go over what all that stuff means. All right, so you don't have to worry about it. But so what you see here, that's the stuff we're putting in for our header. And then this is that same heading section that I just showed you, except for whatever reason, the other one didn't work and this one works. All right, now you'll notice here, this has got class equal current right there. And what that means is that when we open it, you see the thing there. Now the class, if I go to here, now that's the class current. And if I go to here, that's the class current. All right. So whatever one is current is the one I want to light up, so to speak. That should be pushed down a little bit. It's no big deal. All right. But you'll notice I did a little bit of work here. This is very, very amateurish animation type of work that when you highlight something, it does the reverse. So instead of being red with white background, it's white background with red writing instead of red writing with a white background. Right? So it's just reversed from what it was. Okay. This is our main section that's in here. Now I cleared a lot of stuff out of here. What I was going to put in here originally, I'm going to show you this, was this. It looks very similar, except I put a slideshow in here. You'll be doing this kind of thing in a matter of a week or two. It's really and truly not hard. All right. And how did I know how to do this? To be honest with you, I didn't remember how. So I went out to W3 Schools and I looked in that HTML tutorial for how to create a slider. That's what this is called. And I grabbed all of the code and I replaced the images that they had in their code with my own images. All right, that's not cheating. All right. In fact, later on, after we go through all of our HTML section and all of our CSS section, so when we're right about on day 25 to 30, we're going to learn of a pre-built package that's called Bootstrap. And basically what that does is it supercharges your CSS, and it's got tons of built-in stuff. You drag and drop it right into your website, and boom, everything is done for you. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. All right. And this was the footer on the bottom. Okay. Now notice it says ampersand copy. That puts a little copyright symbol in there. So if I wanted, I could add my name here, or you could add your own name. So Jeff Scott, 2022. In fact, I like the 2022 to go after the ampersand copy. What you're going to typically see too is you are going to put that, I'm going to highly encourage that you put in the footer on the bottom of every web page you create, all rights reserved. All right. And the reason for that is when you start to create stuff, I've had people who've been in this class before who have actually gone out and become professional web developers. And when you take some of the stuff that you have in here and you say all rights reserved, basically what you're doing is you're saying on there, hey, you can't copy anything. You can't copy anything in here without my permission. That's what you're saying. All right. And notice that if I come back into a save all and then go back again to my page, it now says, I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it. So I put in there Jeff Scott, all rights reserved, and it still has the clock in there. All right. So everything is still in there and everything is still working. Now, before I go on to the next page, let's quickly go in and take a look at the JavaScript that made that clock work. And those of you who are in the C# class right now, the code shouldn't look that different to you than the actual code that we used inside of C#. So what are we doing? It's 25 lines. This use strict just means you got to follow certain rules. This says I'm going to use a certain area on the screen. But look at this. I'm creating a new date object. That's almost the same way that you would do it in C#. Then after I create a new date, I want you to grab the hours and the minutes and the seconds from that new date. All right. And then it's going to give it to me in military time. Okay. If the hours is greater than 12, so for instance, if it was 9 o'clock this evening instead of this morning, it would be 2100. So subtract 9 from it. I'm sorry, subtract 12 from it. So it'll say 9. So in other words, this is going to handle everything between noon and 11:59:59. So it's going to say hours there. I've already put a PM on the end. But if it's not greater than 12, it means it's in the morning. So I want to put an AM on the end. All right. This stuff that's in here, do I expect you know it? No. But all it's saying in English is if it's like 9:10, let's say it's 9:06. Okay. If it's 9:06, what that's going to do then, notice I'll put the 0 there. So if it was 9:06, it would say 09:06. And if it had just turned over, watch how this says 00 when it goes over in just a minute. And there you go. All right. And then we're telling it to basically run every 1 second, to call this routine every second. That's how I get the clock. Now, that may have sounded hard, that may not have, but it really and truly isn't difficult at all. All right. Grant, I appreciate you sticking with me. Do you need a break?
I think I'm good for right now, if you are.
Okay. All right. Then let's go on to the next page.
All right.
And I hope that none of you watching this consider this to be a waste of your time. I'm just trying to show you a high level overview of the stuff we're going to be doing. So this is the about page. You'll notice that the stuff on the top here, everything through right here, the first 45 lines are exactly the same as the other page, except the other page said home page. This says about page. All right. And the other thing is, if you look in here now, the about page, this is now our current class. Don't worry about this junk. All right. I had some more stuff in there originally. I just got rid of it. Okay. So let's look at what's in here. Now, I do want to mention something to you. This is not a great looking site. This is not a terrible site. All right. Again, this is not a great looking site or a terrible site, but there are major problems with this site, the way it currently looks. And what I mean is, let me get rid of this. I'm looking at the working copy here. It doesn't look terrible right here, but notice what happens when I shrink it. It still doesn't look terrible. It suffices, but it could look a lot nicer. That's the good news. The real bad news is notice what happens with this one when I shrink it. That just looks like a piece of garbage. All right. I didn't put the extra code in there because actually I did, but I removed it because it was many, many lines long. And there's an easier way that I'm going to show you how you can do that later on in the course and center everything on the screen with just a few lines of code. All right. And we'll go talk about that later. So this is the second page. This is the about page. And you'll notice that if I take my mouse and I put it over this image and I click, it brings up information about the Missouri State Seal. And it brought it up or was supposed to have at least brought it up in a different window. Here is some history. There's a button. If I click on that, I get the history of Missouri. Now, this is all stuff, of course, I had to add, all right, but it's all in there. Pro sports, this brings you to the Cardinals homepage. This brings you to the Blues homepage. This brings you to the St. Louis City Fight Club, the soccer team that's going to be starting soon, homepage. So how did we do that? Again, the good news is really not a whole heck of a lot of code in here. All right. So this is our main section where everything is coming in here. So you'll notice there was my image. I made the image clickable by giving it a tag that said when you click it, go over to here. All right. Then I have this history here. And this was the stuff, this here that says Missouri, the show me state, etc. All that stuff is what you see right here. And you'll notice it's got a ... on the end. So when you click read more, I literally grabbed this right from this website, but I just grabbed the first paragraph. And then when you go there, see, there it is, Missouri, the show me state. And I put the ... on, so you knew there was more, so you could come and see more information if you're so inclined. All right, these were the 3 different things in there for pro sports. So you can see what we have in here. Well, that'll take us to the Cardinals page. There's the Cardinals logo. All right. Now you'll notice in here it says Alt equals St. Louis Cardinals logo. What the heck does that mean? Let's say that I made a mistake in here. So this says St. Louis Cards logo. I'm going to remove that S. This is wrong now. So it says St. Louis Card logo. And I'm going to save this and I'm going to go back here. And notice what it did. See that? It says St. Louis Card logo here. That's what's called an alt tag. It's for alternative text. Why is that important? The reason that that's important is anywhere at any time, anywhere between 1% and 25% of people who are looking at your website could be legally blind. So you always put an alt tag in there, and you put it in for 2 reasons. One, if somebody is blind, then they've got a browser that reads to them. It will say St. Louis Cardinals logo. The other one is if you put in, like I just did, a wrong name, it shows you what is supposed to be appearing there. So if I go back now that I changed it and I refresh my browser again, there it is. All right. And the same kind of thing with the Blues and the same kind of thing with the Fight Club. You'll notice this is exactly the same. Part of the problem with working with HTML is you have a lot of repetition. So what we're going to literally do on the first day of class, we're not going to build this website, but on day 1, we're going to build a website. It's going to have 3 pages in it. They're going to look ugly as heck, but you're going to be able to go back and forth between them. And you might say, why are we doing that? There's a reason that we'll get to at that time. All right. When you take the class, all right, that you guys will probably be taking, I don't know if it's going to be summer or fall, but AWD1000, you will learn in there how you can put this stuff in only once and have it appear on every page. All right. But that there are some advanced concepts in there that we don't get to till later. All right. So finally, here's our last page that's in here. So let's look at the contact page. What is that? That has on it what's called a form. What do I mean? That's a form. So I can come in here and I can put my name, I can put my email, I can type in some kind of a message. All right. If I click submit, It's not going anywhere because you don't learn that in this class, how to make it go someplace. What we're doing in this class is what's called client-side web development. So it's as though you're a user more than a developer. All right, but I will show you in here some stuff that you're going to be able to do. Okay. All right. So let's quickly take a look at this. I want to show you one more thing, and we'll probably be done around 9:45 or so. All right. So looking in here, same stuff. Everything again, everything in here is the same except for two things. Number one, this now says contact instead of home or about. And number two, and again, we don't need this anymore. The current is now for contact. All right. So we come in here and we create what's called a form. So everything that you see in here, everything that's in blue right there, that is what you see here. All right. We don't learn to make forms until about chapter 10 or 11 or so, but we'll make a real simple one right away. Unbelievably simple. And actually, this is a simple form. All right. And what do forms hold? A lot of different stuff. Labels, text boxes. All right. What are those? There's a label. This is a text box. The difference between this one and this one was set up as just being a text box, which means I can put anything in the world I want to put in there. This was set up as an email. So if I come in there and I put in hello and I click submit, I get a message. It says, hey, you don't have an @ sign in there. It wasn't formatted correctly. Now, if I come in and put in hello@goodbye.com, it takes it. It doesn't know that that probably isn't a valid email. All right. So you're going to learn the distinction between some of these things that are in here. All right. And then this stuff that's down here, just some extra stuff. If you want more information, that was the address. There's the phone number. There's the email. So what is that stuff? That stuff is this stuff that you see here in blue. Okay. So maybe I didn't do the most stellar job of this, but what I want you to understand is this. All right. I mentioned it before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to show it again. So in the first 30 approximately days of this class, it could be anywhere from 25 to 35 days. We go through this book. This book has in it, I'm not going to read a bit of this, but you'll notice the first 3 chapters are all about HTML, how you do this, how you do that. The next chapters in here, the next 2 are on CSS. Then we go back to HTML again. It's called the Essential Concepts and Skills. We will actually go through in the first week of class, probably the first 3 chapters. Now that sounds like, oh my gosh, that's so much. It's not bad at all. But what we will start making on day 1, I'm going to show you in just a minute. Then we get into responsive design. What is responsive design? Well, notice if I go out, and I'm just going to come out here to CNN.com. This is CNN's website. All right. And if I go out here and I shrink this down, you can see how different it looks when I shrink it down and how it gets to be looking different as I make it bigger. All right. That's called responsive website design. So this is how it would look on a phone. So you learn how to take your stuff and make it responsive. So that's what they're talking about in here. In here and in here. Then we get to more advanced things. Working with images, working with tables, working with forms, and even bringing in audio and video into our webpage, which, believe it or not, is unbelievably simple. Then we go in to talk about transitions and animations. You may have seen this kind of thing before on a website where you bring up a site and something fades into view or fades out of view. That's all done with animations. All right. We probably won't go over these 3 chapters at all, at least probably not 17 and 18, because 18 is what the other book is about. And for deploying a website, I'll show you how you can deploy one. All right, we actually will deploy one. Then when we get done with this, we go into the other book. And the other book, which is the JavaScript and jQuery, this is programming. And I know a couple of you who are currently in the C# class have said, man, I wish I would have taken that other class first so I knew more about programming. Well, I'm going to assume that everybody in this class knows little to nothing about programming. So when we get to this book, a lot of the material that those of you who are in the C# class now will sound a bit repetitive. I'd rather do that than leave anybody behind. All right. And I may have shown you this before. I don't know, but not everybody has seen this. So let me bring it up. Hopefully this won't be one of the ones that works. So this is what we're going to start building really on day one. And believe it or not, we won't have the animation done, but we might even get this one done the first day. I don't know. All right. And you'll notice that when we shrink it down, looks pretty decent. When we go to our about page, that looks pretty decent. As we shrink it down, when we go to our FAQ page, that looks pretty decent. We can bring up our FAQs. So again, this is how it would appear on a phone. We get to our BMI page. This could be better, but it's not terrible. All right, but if we reset it, we put nothing here. That could have been done a little bit better. All right, but it's not terrible. Our contact, that doesn't look bad either. So we're going to start building this site on day one. Now, I don't want that to throw anybody. We're going to start off unbelievably slow. Ours isn't going to look nice like this. It's going to look kind of like you threw it up against the wall to see what sticks type of thing. All right? Because we're going to do this unbelievably slowly and methodically. All right? One of the things that I try to push on you, and again, maybe it's not fair because you're learning it my way, but I try to show you things in the most intuitive way possible. So what I'm telling you is when we're in day one, go back to here and to here and to here. So the first day of class, what you can imagine is going to happen is we're going to go through this introduction to web development. It's about 30, 40 pages. I don't know. All right. And then how to code, test, and validate a web page. We're going to probably go through that too. Why? Because it'll explain some more about VS Code. It'll show you some quick HTML syntax, some quick CSS syntax, and then 3, how to use HTML to structure a web page. We'll probably go through all of that on day one. And believe it or not, there might still be some time left. But then we'll take all of the next day and we'll start to build this website. All right. Much like you've had this semester, those of you in the AWD1000 C# programming class, next semester, there will be the same type of thing. You will get a folder that'll be sent to you. Actually, not sent to you. You'll have a link to it out on GitHub that'll have all of the all of the assignments for the semester. It'll have all of the labs, all of the homework, all of the written tests. You will get that before the semester starts. We will go over that on the first day. Now, some of the people in this class, it'll be their first class. So guess what? We're going to go over GitHub all over again. If you are a newbie, if you're going to be a newbie in this class, what you may want to do is to go out to YouTube and type in Colt Steel, and I'll give you this URL later, Git, and he's got about a 15 or 20 minute, he's got to learn GitHub in 20 minutes, and somewhere too, he's also got to learn Git in 15 minutes. All right, so there's GitHub, and like I said, there's another one for Git. So if you want, you could start looking at that stuff. Do you have to? No. All right. So that's what you have to look forward to. I will let you know one other thing, and actually two things. First is I will have a YouTube channel for the class. So when you go out to YouTube and you type in here, Jeff Scott hyphen Rankin Technical College, and you hit enter, there's my YouTube channel. If you go there, you'll notice it's funny because I keep getting higher and higher on subscribers. But when you go in there and you look, there will literally be, I don't know, if I go to the home page here, I guess I am on home, there's about 3,000 videos in there now. All right. So if you want to see the videos, if you go to playlist and you might have to go and look for it a little bit. But right now, there isn't one for the class in spring. There will be. And it'll be something like this. Spring 2023 AWD1000 Web Development Technologies. It will have in it, I have gone through the entire textbook, both textbooks, and I did my own lectures on the PowerPoint slides. I don't do PowerPoint in classes. There's no time for that. So I will do that. All right. And that's going to be out there. Okay. Along with, I don't know, anything else that I've done. Every lecture that is done in this class will be saved to two different places. All right. One of them will be out on Microsoft Teams. The other one will be out on this YouTube page. Every single lecture. All right. So for instance, now this semester, the people who are in the AWD 1100 class, this is what they have. All right. This is a screenshot from Teams. And if you go in here, this is the kind of thing. So you never see me. All right. It'll always just be my voice and the computer screen. All right. So like I said, that's what you've got to look forward to. I will send this out. All right. Why anybody want to do what I'm about to show you, I don't know. But if you always wondered, that's me right there. Okay. And that's enough of me. Okay. So I will send this video out to everybody who's registered for the class right now, along with all the corresponding URLs that I talked about today, and a link to this presentation right here out on GitHub. All right. With that, Grant, thanks for sticking around. And this is the last lecture for this semester. This is it. All right. So for the rest of the semester, those of you in the AWD 1100 class, you've got lab Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. All right. So I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good holiday break.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate it.